Hello, I'm Tim Karsko. I started my graphic design life as a typesetter in letterpress printing. And are there any graphic designers here today? Kind of? Okay, well that's good enough. That's good enough because that way I can talk. I can just say anything and all of the other people have to believe me. So I studied at the University of Applied Science in Darmstadt, graphic design, communication design. They changed the name every year. It came out as an art and creative director in agencies in Frankfurt. And I am a TEDx Rhein-Main ambassador. I don't know, who of you already know TEDx Rhein-Main? Fine, tell everybody else. It's a nice thing, very good thing. We have very cool adventures and a lot of things going on. So I'm a big fan of infographics, and I'm coming from a little bit of another side to this data thing, like from a graphic designer side of view. You will of course find this presentation as an online version on SpeakerDeck and SlideShareNet in the next, let me say, 10 days. I have to figure that out. And of course you will find the video on the Database YouTube channel. So my first talk, this talk you now listening to, is the third of three. The first one was about examples about good, bad, and ugly presentations of data. So somehow I picked this Western theme. Yeah, I don't know who. I'm not really a fan of Western film, but this is a classic: the good, the bad, and the ugly, and it just fitted perfectly well for data. So the second one had to be, well, it was an overview about the 7 most used kinds of infographics for data visualization. And so it had to be the Magnificent 7. Well, you know, you start with the shit, you have to stick to it. Yeah? So today, the third one is some little tips for you how to make a good presentation on your own without giving a lot of money to expensive designers and like me. So this is, I had to use Mr. Clint Eastwood again, and you know he's very serious. So we're talking about having a little presentation just for a fistful of dollars for your own. And you know Mr. Clint Eastwood, he's serious about that shit. So first things first, as my forerunner said, use a grid. Use a grid. Use a grid. It's really easy. Some programs give it to you from itself. So, for example, I'm using normally for presentations 1000 to 1024 pixels to see that 768. Some people use another combination of pixels. So, be kind and ask the man where you presentate first how he wants it. Yeah. Because yeah, maybe he has a large screen or something like that. So I just give you the example of this one. I would suggest make your grid dividable by 4 or 6. Numbers like 5 or 10 are not really good. Yeah. So for example, I have 16 to 12 parts here. Partition it 4 by 4. This is just a close-up, which gives me a very nice grid like this. Freaking awesome. Well, so why? Because it's easy to align things. Yeah, stuff like on the right side won't happen to you if you use a good grid. So easy, because that would be a fail. It's just not very serious if you have a presentation like this. And another art of grid is canons of page construction, which in German is described as the Satzspiegel. It's a very old thing, like 300 years ago, no, even more. It's from the 18th century, and you can make it just by part your pages, having diagonal crosses, and then you get those 2 points down there. Have a bit diagonally on the other side, you get another 2 points up there. And with those points, you just can size and resize the frame of your presentation, and it will always have a kind of a good feeling. Yeah, this is a simple, an old thing, like 100 years used and still used by artists and everything. It goes to the golden cut and all this stuff. I don't want to talk about Fibonacci numbers, but all this shit sticks in there. So this way you will have just a nice frame for your presentation. Another thing is, if you presentate with a lot of photos and pictures, you can use the rule of thirds. It's also a very, very old thing, like Leonardo da Vinci used it all the time. He messed it up, really. The new cameras have it sometimes already built in. It's just, well, divide your sheet or your spread paper, whatever you have, by 3 to 3. You get those points where you mark something like, for example, if you take a picture, it does look more, it really works. It does look more interesting if it's on the rules of 3. Like, for example, if you have a presentation where it just needs some words and a big picture, like some copy and a good picture, it always works. It looks good. You don't have to do anything, it just looks good by itself. Very easy. So let's get to the, let me say, elements of presentation. For example, lines. You must make lines visible. Yeah, like in the last row, everybody has to see them. I mean, this maybe works for here, but not for the big audience. So make them just big enough, otherwise it's a fail. Yeah. Use only 2 width. Yeah. It's like recognizable. You see the small one and the fat one. Like the right example, I'm using 3. It doesn't already work here. It's a fail. Make them recognizable, as I said, just like on the right side you see 3 width. Nobody can understand what's going on here. It's another fail. So, and if you're not sure about outlines, well, you can work around with colors, for example. Very easy. Talking about arrows, use only one kind of arrow. It's really that simple, but sometimes you stumble over presentations with thousands of them, like this. Yeah? Every arrow means something to, well, nobody wants to check that out. So this is a fail again. Of course, you can use big arrows for description. This works well, as long as it's big enough and you have your copy in it. Another thing is, instead of arrows, you can always use shape. Yeah, why not? So the next part, when we talk about shapes, different shapes. You know, this is a normal decision tree. Different shapes mean different things. Like, don't use this where, well, question goes to right, to yes or no, as the same shape as the rest. It's not very useful. Just make it recognizable that there's something different going on. Very easy. So this will be a failure as well. And I suggest no more than 4 shapes, because it just messes your mind up. Yeah? You have to recheck and check which shape was that, what. So this is a fail. And the better practice is just use color. So we have 4 shapes here and some colors. We have all the same possibilities as before, even more maybe. So color is a good thing. The other thing is a fail. And if it fits into your presentation, images would be a nice idea too, instead of color or shapes. Because men do really work really easy with images. So Too many shapes, big fail. Next thing, size. Of course, size is important. You see that? Same size. One says not important, the other thing is more important. Well, you don't get it from visual sites. Make it like that. That's really easy to get. Directly on the point. I don't even have to use copying it, yeah, because you understand. So this is a fail. As for example, size is always a relationship to. We have a mouse and a giraffe. Well, this is of course much more. You get it. You get my point, right? So, what about if the description is too long? You're sitting there, yeah, I want to say a mouse with an umbrella, but moo. So, yeah, I know that. Yeah. Just use substitutes, for example. Yeah, why not? That easy. Of course, size means hierarchy as well. For a face, we have eyes, we have the nose and the mouth, it's clear. But the face is not as big as the mouth or the eyes as the nose. So this one would be much more applicable. Like the eyes, nose and mouth together give you the face, a big thing. So of course this is a fail. Talking about nesting. I don't like nesting anyway, but people use it and people have to use it often. So this is an example I saw from a friend's slide, and this is like 5 nestings. No, is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Let's talk about 5 to 7, however you count it, nestings. Not a good way. The better way is just split it up. Split it up. We have time, we have slides, you can do it. It's better to split up slides, like 1 slide into 5, and people get it. People get the information you want to get them, instead of having one very nicely made file you have spent your weekend on, didn't come to your partner and had no love, just for that slide, which is banged up with shit like this. Yeah? So it's very, very easy. Just split it up, make it easy for the people. We have like 1 nesting, next nesting, the bigger nesting, the next bigger nesting together, whatever. So next thing is color. Color is very useful. You've got different color options, like for the background, the lines, the fillings, copy, highlights, whatever else you use in your presentation. So, but there's one thing, just don't use colored arrows, not those little ones, because like in the last row, nobody sees which color it has. In that case, I would prefer dashed lines. Yeah, it's quite easier to look at. I'm just talking about presentation for people, not that printed out stuff you can, where you can get out your magnifying glass. So that would be a fail. An exception is, of course, bigger arrows, which made it very simple and clear what goes on. Talking about color, we come to color fillings. Very, very helpful. Yeah, and of course borders as well. And if you combine that, yeah, it gives you really a big choice. This is just black and white and yellow and red. And I'm not really sure if I tried everything out here. Yeah, but you see, it just gives you a big, big choice. So don't mess around, don't get too much colors, don't play around too much. Stay to the ground. Of course, color can be helpful, but often you don't know how, if it's printed out in black or white or whatever. See this example, everybody has to read everything. Otherwise you wouldn't understand it. You have to read every square. Yeah. This is quite dumb, because you can make it very easy and fast if you just use a little bit of color. Just green and red, of course, for yes and no. Seems obvious if I show it to you like this, but often people don't use it. So this would be a fail, of course. And as I said, if it comes to black and white printing, this sometimes doesn't work. Like black and white would look maybe like this. Yeah? You can even tell now, not as fast as with color. So in that case, I would, for example, suggest use borders and contrast. Then it works again, and it works pretty fast. So boom, it's there, bang, no discussion. Yeah? Everybody knows what's yes, what's no, what's to be done. So another thing, talking about those colors, don't use too pale colors. Well, because if it depends on your beamer or whatever you have. In this case, it's a very good beamer. You still can tell about 15% black. Often this is already not to see. So I suggest go stronger, go more in contrast, like 30%. And another problem, in that case, it would be a fail. Be careful with, for example, gradients and shadows. Yeah, this is really nice to play with and to look at if you have it close and on your screen. But if you show it to an audience, it often gets lost. We do have a really good case here. Well, this is slightly to be seen. The shadow is good. But don't do anything which could get lost anyway. Yeah, this is not what you're going to pay for. You're just wasting time with that. So this is a fail eventually. The other thing is a fail eventually too. And of course, dark on bright is always better seen as bright on dark, as well as this looks very sexy. But sometimes it just doesn't work in an audience or a big hall or whatever equipment do you have. So you're on the sure side with dark on bright. As I said, another fail. Yeah, well, everybody fails, doesn't it? And I failed so much. This is just because I failed so much, I can't tell you all of that. I made every fail of this, maybe twice sometimes. So talking about fonts, I'm a really font lover. And just don't let your presentation become an optician test. This is what it says for all you who can read that last line. As you already saw, I'm really a big fan of big, bold fonts. Of course, this way you can only have one word in a slide, but that's sometimes okay. So make your slides easy to read. Yeah, like this is working wonderful. You know, it's a classic from times when we still bought albums. I don't know if CDs have those labels on, and I don't even know what they do with MP3. What about MP3? Okay, interesting point. So I like big and bold types, yeah, easy to read. Like even if they're in the last row would sit a blind one, you could see that. Yeah. And of course, do not use too much info or text per slide. It just annoys you. Yeah. You don't have to read that shit because it's a fail. So just cut the crap. Just cut the crap. Make it short. Make it good. Yeah. It's not that easy because it determines you to bring down the essence of what you want to say. Yeah. So try to make it in one sentence, and of course only use one form. Doesn't, you know, mixing up is just annoying for a font lover like me that they fail to. Don't use fancy fonts. I used them when I was 12. It's okay when you're 12. It's even okay if you're 16 and in love. But when you're 21, don't use those fancy fonts. Yeah. I'm not really a fan of those non-serif fonts, but the point is you will get a very big variety, like for this one, Futtiger, Helvika, etc. And for example, one font is enough for your whole presentation. Yeah? You maybe just need it in just 2 styles, just taking here footer, head, Vertica, and universe. I'm much more in love with Vertica than here. Well, that's the personal thing. So I took it as an example. If you just use the normal cut and the black cut, those 2 styles, and just 2 sizes, you get enough variations for a good presentation. Yeah, like this on the red side. So it's enough. It really should give you everything you need. And I hear you say quietly in your mind, what about italic? I hear you. See that? Nobody recognized the change of the lazy dog or the copy or the markings. Because what about italic? Forget about italic. Forget about italic, it's a big fail. Yeah, nobody sees it. Really, nobody sees it. So, and we got another problem. Not that easy like the italic problem. What about Versal? I used Versal here in the subhead. I'm using Versal just for like 1 or 3 word lines. This is enough. Yeah, it's just that easy because your mind doesn't read letters. We always read words. Yeah, this means, for example, the THE. You don't spell it in your mind. You just read it as the. Yeah, and if you use Versal, your mind, your brain has to spell every letter for itself. It's very complicated. It takes a lot of time for your mind, maybe a nanosecond or something like that, but this is much for your mind, not for yourself. So be careful with using Versal letters. Yeah? Could be a big fail. Don't use it in copy. Use it as sublines, maybe a headline, but that's all. And of course, don't mix up your font styles. Yeah? Like this, it just leads you the wrong way. Use a bold one or use a normal one. Just keep it straight, always, not a fail. You see, much to be failed there. So, and of course, don't mix up your letter sizes. What the heck? I've seen those. Yeah, I've seen those. I didn't have the chance to burn them, but I've seen them. So do it like this, otherwise it's a fail. And if I see a presentation in front of you like that, I will burn it. Remember me, I will burn it. If you're in the room, it's another thing. Yeah, so. And of course, please don't label vertical. Nobody tilts their head and reads that. Yeah? For example, use substitutes like A, B, and C. Much more easier. Oh, of course, if you don't like that, you can use colors. Think always about colors. They're really helpful sometimes. Like, of course, this is again 2nd grade, making your Valentine's Day card for your art fellow. Don't play with your copy. This is just childish. So use substitutes or use color, for example. And what are the results of this? As you have seen, it's very, very easy to fail. Yeah, you got a lot of chances to fail. All the day, failing. And therefore, I will give you some, just pass it on, grab some. If ever you see somebody failing, or if you're failing yourself, just put that on your layout